So I really, really liked this book, and why am I getting so tongue-tied trying to talk about it? Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Morgan, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about this super fun book that I just read, which was the Kaiju Preservation Society, because, it was a blast to read. I had it on my anticipated releases video, and I was very excited to read it, but it met all of my expectations. The Kaiju Preservation Society is told from the perspective of our main character, Jamie Gray. He is stuck in this dead-end delivery driver job because COVID has just shut down New York City. And he really, really hates it because he is a deliverator. That is what they call their drivers. It's so pretentious. For a company that he'd actually worked for in a different sort of position only a few months before. And the company's name is even worse. It's Food Mood, but instead of O's, it has U's with the little dots above them that I don't know what that's called grammatically. But thanks to this job that he hates, he runs into an old acquaintance from college while delivering food to him. And over several visits, he finds out that Tom's job is with an animal rights preservation group. And on one of his last deliveries to Tom, he's like, I have to go away for a while with my job. And actually, Jamie, you seem like you hate the job you're doing. Would you like to help me out and fill in for somebody who is sick with COVID? And so he's recruited to do grunt work, he's like pretty straightforward with him. Tom tells him, well, you're gonna kind of be delivering things. Realistically, it's a joke throughout the whole book. He's like, you lift things. That's what you're gonna do. And Jamie's like, I can lift things. We jump forward now about 2 weeks. No, it wasn't even 2 weeks. It was probably just a few days. They told him, pack light. We'll give you clothes and everything when you get there. You're not going to be allowed to be on social media or anything like that. And once he gets to the airport that will be flying them out to their destination, Tom, makes sure he's all settled and everything. And he also gets to meet 3 other new team members. A geologist, a biologist, and an astrophysics / something else doctorate. All PhD people. Very smart. And he's like, wow, what in the world could an animal preservation society need with you kinds of people? And they're like, we have no idea either. Because they think they're going to Greenland to do something with polar bears or something. Because they weren't told anything. And they take the plane, we're given like their cover story by the KPS team of what to say if somebody on the plane that's not what their group asks. And apparently it's so boring that nobody really cares to hardly listen to it, as he finds out on the plane. And they get to Greenland, and they're in a hangar bay, and Tom's just like grinning like a fool, and Jamie's like, what, where are we going to do this or whatever? This looks like a military base kind of almost, but it's a shut down military base. And the hangar door closes behind them. And then when it opens back up, all of a sudden the cold air is gone and they're in just this humid environment. And Tom's like, welcome to Kaiju Earth. Like the back of the book said, they are an animal rights group for kaijus that live on an alternate Earth. And these creatures are huge. Like, they kind of describe it as a Godzilla almost situation, but most of them are even bigger. They're like almost moving mountains, huge. Or there are smaller ones. There are like the size of elephants. So yeah, all the newbies are like completely, wow, how is this, wow. But like one of the intake questions they'd had to answer was, how are your thoughts on science fiction? Like the company has actually thought to try to ask that in their thing to make sure that people are going to like be able to handle it, believe it, adapt to it. This other Earth that they found has never been in contact with humans before the 1960s-ish, when this whole organization was first founded. And their job is over there to help their endangered species that are, as they call them, giant retarded pandas. Because they pretty much forget to do things for themselves a lot. And also, though, to keep them from accidentally getting into our world, because that is apparently a problem. The back of the book had mentioned how they were not the only people there, and I had assumed, bad guys found their way in or whatever. And it's not even that was not actually quite accurate. It was not. And I was like, what? Overall, though, I was like, oh my gosh, this book made me laugh so many times because they're all these nerdy scientists, and Jamie at one point realizes that he's like the only person there that doesn't have a doctorate. And he's like, well, okay then. I'm just the dunce here with my master's degree. But he doesn't do it in a self-deprecating way. Like, he does it in a way that, he's all right about it. Kind of. He makes it light of it instead of a sad moment. And then just the super nerds that they have there, him and then other newbies just become close friends, and they bounce things off each other. Like, taking things and making inappropriate band titles. It was so many times this book made me laugh. And it's only about 201 pages, so it's not super big. Wasn't super long, but I just enjoyed it so much. It was perfect read for my next one in line. It's a very good mood lifter there. Oh my gosh. Cannot say enough liveliness about it. Alright, so the only way I could keep talking about this book would be to dive into the spoilers. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Because, oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, if you can't tell, I enjoyed this book. I don't know if I said it. Did I say I enjoyed this book? Okay, like with the last one with the spoilers, let's start at the beginning. So, Jamie's career with Food Mood started before he was a delivery rider. He actually worked for them kind of in the marketing side of things, I guess. And he seemed really good at it. Like, before COVID, and he was in that position, he'd gone in for his review, and he thought he was gonna do great. He had all these ideas. And Jerkface CEO was like, yeah, those do sound great. Like, going to restaurants and everything and trying to offer them slightly discounted rates for exclusive contracts with Food Mood instead of like using one of the other food delivery people's. And all these really good ideas, because he's like, this COVID thing is starting to get bad. We're probably going to go into a quarantine. Which I don't know, thinking back, I don't know how many people called that the whole world was going to shut down before it happened. But it's a book, so we'll let it happen that like he saw that coming. Sure. But in his review, Jerkface CEO nodded, smiled, super nice, and then he's like, okay, well, you're fired. And then what did he do? He offered him the deliberator position. I'm sorry, there keeps being like a hair that's tickling my face. And because quarantine and, nothing else pretty much was available, Jamie had to, he took what he could get and was a deliberator. Which worked out for him, though, because he was able to get Tom and, get that awesome opportunity to work for the Kaiju Preservation Society. But Jerkface CEO did implement all the ideas Jamie had said after he fired Jamie. And then, because of the exclusivity of restaurants, Uber bought Food Mood out for like $7 billion, making Jerkface a billionaire. I only mention this because later on it becomes important in the book. You think, oh, well, that was just, a side character. But it's not. KPS is a non-profit NGO, something like that. So that means they get a little bit of government funding from all the governments of the world. Not just our government, but all the governments of the world. Plus a whole lot of private funding from billionaires. And because of this, even though it's a top secret thing, you have to have top secret security clearance and whatever of our government and people to come over, but select billionaires are able to come to visits. So Jerkface shows back up later in the book. Now though, how this all came about is actually tied to Godzilla a bit, because apparently the way to connect our Earth and Kaiju Earth is with nuclear radiation, nuclear explosions. And that was found out during the testing in the Pacific back in the 50s. I want to say it was 50s. And they actually link that in the book. They're like, yes, the testing that was done in the South Pacific pulled a kaiju from Kaiju Earth to our Earth. They tracked the radiation through the gap, or through the tear between the worlds, and came through to our side. And Japanese sailors that were in the area took the story back, and that is how the filmmakers came up with Godzilla. And they're like, but it looks, completely different. Because the creatures are hideous. The way they describe them, at least, they're hideous. And yeah. But because of that, and obviously the government saw the giant creature and tracked it down, but it being in our world and not being able to get to the radiation after that first initial fallout, it died. It couldn't breathe and it couldn't eat, so it died. Because those creatures feed on radiation. Also, without mammals being on their Earth, because whatever caused mammals to evolve into, us on our planet never happened on theirs. But time-wise, astronomically, they are at the same time point and period as we are. It's just whatever happened that we came about never happened on their world. So the oxygen levels are much higher on their planet. And when they came here, they weren't able to breathe. They weren't able to breathe. They couldn't breathe either, because there's only one of them. So, moving on. With that though, all the governments actually worked together to form the KPS with the scientists, and that way they could go over there, make sure the creatures wouldn't come back over. And once they were over there and studying them, they found, as I said, that they were kind of retarded. Like a lot of the species could, go extinct on their own planet because they just don't intermingle and they don't do breeding very well. Like one of Jamie's first missions is to try to help a species where they are, that there's only 2 of them there, and the female keeps trying to come up towards the male, but the male doesn't understand why, and he's just trying to fight her off for his territory. So their first mission was to douse them with pheromones to get them to breed, so that way they could have more of those and, not die off. And that was a whole process. And he's like, I'm going to have nightmares forever. I'll never be able to get that image from my brain. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. That whole thing, though, where they had to do that. And then another kaiju having a literal nuclear meltdown not far away caused a tear to open up very close to their base. And like I said, they feed off the radiation. So when that one exploded, which apparently is not super uncommon, it caused the now pregnant female to head to that area and stake her claim and, just sit there. She sat there, had her eggs, and it's like, nothing else is coming here and I'm not going to move. With her being there, though, it kept the tear between the dimensions open just a little bit. Not enough for her or hardly anything else to go through, but it just kept that barrier very, very thin. This started to make our government worried, so on one of the scheduled visits that happened during Jamie's stay, a general came and they were exploring, is it safe? Do we need to try to force her to move? And the scientists are like, no, it's not big enough. And this is also when Jerkface came, because apparently he's a billionaire from that, and his family company has been involved with KPS for generations. So he had connections. An idiot wanted to try to take some samples back with him and had to be put in his place by the helicopter pilot and by the person in charge there. But Mr. Sneaky, of course, would not let that be the end of it and decided when he got back and now that he knew exactly where the pregnant kaiju was, apparently his company has done way more development and found a way to set off a small electromagnetic burst, kind of, that since that tear was already weak, was able to open it up and pull the pregnant kaiju into our world so that they could try to do that. And he's all like, well, it's for the good of the world because I'm trying to get biogenetic nuclear reactors. This way, you know, we don't have any nuclear waste. We won't have any more nuclear this, because the future of energy is nuclear, and if it's bioengineered, then that would save the world. And no matter the fact that the head people are like, well, we can't go over there, we can't contact the other side, it's too risky, we don't know what's going on. Jamie and his friends were like, well, you know what, we're not going to let this pregnant kaiju explode in Canada. It's like, we just can't let that happen. So they kind of go it on their own, go through the tear on their own, because, you know, they're brilliant, so they're able to replicate it without even knowing what Jerkface did. They get to our Earth again and kind of bullshit their way through most of it. The way the book ended, it was a very good ending. I liked the way it wrapped it up. It's probably going to be a one-shot kind of thing, and that's okay. It still ended very nicely. It ended with kind of Jamie passing along the favor that Tom had given him of giving him a job to someone else who had worked with him at Food Mood. But it was so enjoyable to read and so fast, and it's like most of the book even wasn't the drama part. It was just, you know, the day-to-day tasks sometimes on life of Planet Kaiju, or the like unusual-ish missions of when they did have to go dose them with pheromones, or when they went to go set up cameras when, you know, she plopped herself down on a nuclear fallout site and they wanted to monitor her and the site. And yeah, most of it was just day to day, and it was just so enjoyable to read though, and so funny, just their interactions. So I think I might end up reading some of his other works that John Scalzi has done, because maybe if this is how most of his books are, then I would enjoy them greatly. The one thing I will say that I didn't like as much about it is with our bad guy, part of his motivations of not caring that the kaiju was going to blow up in Canada, have a nuclear fallout in Canada, was that he tried to tie it to the upcoming election in the US. He's like, well, now the election won't have to happen and it'll just be martial law. Really? What? I mean, but why do we have to tie it? Why do we have to make it political? I don't see why we had to. He could just be a smug, rich butthole. That was completely unnecessary. Otherwise, I don't think I have any other things that I found wrong with it. The names, too. The names of all the characters. I will not even try to say most of them because they are so outside of my range, probably, of saying it right in front of the camera. Because, like I said, it's a global organization, kind of like all the governments of the world support it. So most of the people's names are foreign, like they're from totally different backgrounds. Even the three newbies that all seem like American, but their family names are all different. No, Dr. Healy, I'm gonna say their name is Dr. Healy because Okay, so apparently the camera decided to cut off on me. I think it got too hot. I was talking about their names though, like Dr. Healy's name. Their last name is Healy. And their first name is something Irishy. And I'm pretty sure they said they were Irish. And yeah, I like that he did the research and, or at least put in the effort to make everybody's names sound like they're from somewhere else. Because a lot of times, like, you'll say it's a global organization, but most of the names sound super English. And so I appreciated that. I think it was good. The Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi came out about a month ago on March 15th. I got it on Google Books, but I know I saw it in hardback, I think, at Target. I tried looking for it as an audiobook early on, and I couldn't really find it. but they probably have it by now, or maybe I was afraid of the author narrator thing. No, I just don't think I could find it. Either way, it is available everywhere, and I highly recommend everybody to check it out because it's not super long. Even if you don't think you're like a sci-fi fan, if you just want a fiction-y read, this will still work for you. Even though they do talk science, like a little bit, slightly real science, so that's really cool too, personally. But like, it's also funny and just, it's a very enjoyable read. I think everybody should check it out for sure because it's not long, won't take much of your time. It should give you some laughs. I'm gonna stop talking about how much I love the book and how much everyone should read it now and let you all get on with your day before the camera decides to cut off on me again. Full battery, don't know why. Haven't even been talking that long, shouldn't have overheated either. Oh, I hope you guys have a great day and I will see you next time. Bye.